And welcome back to the Shoop Sports Spectacular with our boy, Mr. Beans O'Connell, Chuck himself. How we doing, bud?
I'm great. I'm ready to rock. It was a great vacation. Little Thanksgiving holidays. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. I'm definitely hungover, so I'm ready to get back into it.
Yeah, and we hope that you guys missed us. We certainly missed you guys, all your comments. Shout out to our new subscribers. We're up to 80 subscribers, so fantastic news. Let's get to 100 by the end of the year, shall we?
Hey, why not? Why not us? Come on.
Yeah. Why not us? And why not some doves and L's to kick this baby off? How's that sound, Chuck?
Hey, I'm down. I'm ready to rock.
Absolutely. And for those that don't know, because we do have some new subscribers here, Dubs and L's is our weekly tradition where we pick a W and an L in the sports community and we dissect it, we roast them, we congratulate them, whatever it may be. And we're just going to get into it. So, Chuck, hit us with your W of the week.
So this better be everybody's W of the week because my W of the week is going to be championship weekend coming up. So everybody buckle up because it's about to get toasty this weekend because everything and anything needs to happen for all these teams to make it to the four final spots in this college football playoff. So starts off on Friday. We got Conference USA championship. I mean, that doesn't have anything to do with it, but still, it's good football. It's championship football. Everybody lock in. Friday, we got that. Also, Friday night, we have Oregon versus Washington. That's going to be a great game. Then on Saturday, it starts us off with Oklahoma State, Texas for the Big 12 championship. Then SEC championship after that, Georgia, Alabama. If you're a sicko and you like to bet on everything, AAC, American Athletic Championship, SMU versus Tulane, and then Big 10 championship and ACC championship. First off, we got Michigan versus Iowa, and then Louisville versus Florida State. I'm jacked the fuck up right now. I can't wait for this weekend. It's going to be a lot of good football. I hope all the games are close, and we'll discuss picks later on because I think I'm picking everyone.
Hell yeah. Can't believe my boys aren't in it, unfortunately. These boys right here. It does
Hey,
sadden
you
me.
never know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they still could be in playoff contention, but they'll be off this weekend. But yeah, lots of potential shakeups in the college football playoffs potentially coming up. So be on the lookout. Huge weekend for college football fans. Um,
100%.
not everyone is a fan of the product on the football field right now, specifically Tom Brady, who called today's product in the NFL mediocre. You know, he got roasted by Alex Smith on NFL Live, who also simultaneously roasted Rex Ryan uh, on that same show. So go check out that clip if you haven't seen it. But I'm actually going to give W to Tom Brady here because I feel like people were calling him out because he just played a season ago. But he's not responsible for the mediocrity. I mean, on his own team, the offensive line was, but that is precisely the point. Is the NFL is mediocre today because these offensive lines can't protect, and there are so many teams in the NFL right now that are having major offensive line issues. Certain teams have had offensive line issues for years. Cough, cough, Giants. But
Yeah.
it's just a major problem around the league. And then another factor is we had all these legendary quarterbacks like Brady, Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers. You used to have Brett Favre.
Mhm.
Um, like all these guys are now retired. Some of them long retired.
Yeah.
We have Rodgers who got hurt at the beginning of the season. The only representation, like we used to have Matt Ryan too. Like Joe Flacco was good for many years. You know, the only representation of veteran quarterbacks right now that we have in the NFL is like Matthew Stafford. And, really, besides that, a lot of these guys are the new faces in the league, the young guys. And they'll have their struggles, but beyond the young studs that are coming up, this is a lot of poor quarterback play, a lot of injured quarterbacks, and then a lot of poor offensive line play that's leading to bad offense. So, the NFL had a scoring boom this past decade. Scoring went up as more defensive penalties came up, but now it's starting to go the other way, and eventually it's going to go back the other way, and we're going to just see this kind of give and take with the NFL. So this product won't look like it forever, but yeah, the NFL right now, the product, if you saw that Monday night game last night, it looks really bad. Like some of these games are really bad.
It's I get they're trying to protect the quarterback, but the defense is at a disadvantage with multiple passing interference, holding calls. So if you can't tackle a quarterback onto his back without getting a penalty, it's outrageous. There's got to be some type of leeway, or this game's very important. We can't let these refs dictate the way the game is played. And I think also that's where Tom Brady's the mediocrity quote in this game. That's where he's coming from. So I totally understand him.
Yeah, good point about the roughing the passer calls too. That adds to the frustration. Poor reffing in general just definitely adds to that frustration. Let's move on to our L's, and I'm going to start off with my L first, and we're going to go remain in football, the NFL, and a specific play with Diontae Johnson, who, according to reports, had a locker room spat with fellow Steeler Minkah Fitzpatrick. They had a difference of words. We don't really know what it's about. That was kept internally, but there is some frustration within the Steelers organization, which is weird because this is a well over 500 team, a good organization.
Yeah.
So I had the feeling that maybe it's just another Steelers wide receiver becoming a diva. Well, point proven on Sunday, where early in the first half, Diontae Johnson is lined up and ball snaps, he does nothing. And then on the play, there's a fumble. And as the ball is on the ground, Diontae Johnson, he just looks at it like he doesn't even know what's going on in the field. Bengals scoop it up and return it. And eventually it leads to a score for them.
Yeah.
And unlucky for him, everybody saw this. It got caught on live camera, and everyone's calling him out for it. Next diva wide receiver. And, rightfully so. What have you done to earn that status? And I don't know what it is. Maybe it's something with Mike Tomlin's coaching or whoever the wide receiver coach is there.
Yeah.
But Kenny Pickett is out there having the game of his season. New offensive coordinator, throwing for well over 250 yards. And I know it's early in the game, but you're still unhappy. You can't make effort on that play. There are so many guys that would kill to have his spot. And that is the bottom line. The fact that he doesn't want to give effort, you know what? Benjamin, put someone in who cares. I don't care how talented he is. That's BS. And as a former football player yourself, you should know.
I mean, it's all about effort on the field, whether you're getting the ball or not. I mean, it is a team game. The quarterback's maybe more responsible for the winning, but I mean, a wide receiver is not going to dictate the whole play of the game. And if the Bengals, say if that was a huge play and that turned around the whole game and they end up losing that game, you will not hear the end. Diontae Johnson would not hear the end of it as of right now. So I hope they fix what's going on in the locker room, because they have a good team right now to make a run in the playoffs, especially with that kind of defense, and then guys who are injured coming back. So I'm hoping that with the firing of Matt Canada, now the offense is cooking. I hope this doesn't hinder their chances for the playoffs or making a run.
Yep. Well, they're in a very good position right now in the AFC, who a lot of contenders have been losing. So Steelers look like to be prime in the playoff spot. But there's an NBA team out there that is primed to look like they're not making the playoffs. And what team is that, Chuck?
I mean, my L right now this week, yesterday after watching a very boring Monday Night Football game and then going to the late NBA game to see the Clippers losing to the Denver Nuggets. And you're like, I mean, it's the Denver Nuggets. Like, they're very good. Like, yeah, they should beat the Clippers. No, the Clippers are at home and Jokic is out. And in the beginning of the game, Aaron Gordon injures his heel. And they're up. It's a close game throughout the entire game. I'm thinking, like, wow, okay, Clippers about to make a run here. It's like the third quarter. They were up like 11 or something. And then Denver comes storming back with a bunch of backups, a couple guys I actually haven't heard of who absolutely went off. And you see it on the court, and you could be like, NBA, they don't play defense. They don't do this. There's no effort. There's effort across the entire board. Those guys are ridiculously tall and ridiculously fast. And I could not imagine trying to cover any of them. But when the Clippers have four All-Stars on the floor at once, 4 Hall of Famers, maybe, like all at once, and you can't get the job done against a hurt Denver team at home, like it's got to be super concerning. Their record right now is 7-9. Used to be a lot worse. I'm pretty sure they were like 4-7 at one point. They're making a run, but you can't take 2 steps forward and then take 2 steps back, losing to an injured team at home who may be like well coached. But I watched that game, and there is a lack of effort in that Clippers team, and they need to figure it out, or else, hot prediction, Harden might get traded again. They might trade Westbrook again. Paul George played like shit last night. I'm pretty sure he only had like 10 points. They might trade his ass. Like, they got to make a move if they want to be a contending team. And I feel bad for Ty Lue. Ty Lue's doing everything in his power to keep this team together, to keep them winning. I hope they don't stay on the losing track.
Not to mention, Denver was also on a back-to-back as well, combined with those injuries.
That makes it even worse. Good point.
Inexcusable loss for the Clippers. Clippers just come off as a team that is very hard to root for. They have all these superstars, but like it's a very forced roster, a roster that was very forced to be put together. It's just like the expectation should be up here, and they're not even exceeding that. And it's a damn shame. And those players will probably suffer some injuries too, knowing those players. So it's not looking good for the Clippers right now. But it's looking good for some teams in the NFL, some teams not so much. And we are heading towards the playoff stretch. And I think it's appropriate time, as most college students are coming up towards finals. We're going to give out some report cards for all 32 NFL teams. We're going to grade them all the way from A+ to F-. And we're going to start with our A+. So, Chuck, I'll let you lead things off. Which teams get your A+?
So right now, my A+ teams, they look like they just dominate when they get on the field every time. And whether it's on offense, defense, or special team situational wise, quarterback play. So my 2 A+ in the NFC, I got Philly, definitely A+. They, in the beginning, I didn't think they were that good of a team. They played a lot of teams that are under 500. Some of them one game over 500 right now, but their last 5 games, they have exceeded expectations, and they do look really good and Super Bowl contenders as of right now. So even though I hate Philly, I'm going to have to give them an A+. My other A+ team is going to be the Ravens. Their O-line is just dominating at the point of attack. They lost Mark Andrews. Doesn't matter. They got this guy, Isaiah Likely, who is catch and run is insane, and he's running over people when he has the ball in his hands. I love it. Kind of like another Mark Andrews guys, but a little bit more athletic. So I like them a lot to also be Super Bowl contenders. Lamar is balling out. He just needs to stay healthy. They should be A+ all the way.
Yeah. So for my A+ and for all my grades, the way that I base my grades is expectations before the season, as well as, how they performed relative throughout the season and my expectations. So it's not going to be necessarily the team's best record, but here we go. First, I'll start off with the Baltimore Ravens. Like you said, Baltimore Ravens, one thing that you didn't mention about them is that defense is extremely underrated. I don't think they get talked about really as one of the best defenses in the NFL, but every part of that team, from Roquan Smith to that secondary led by Marlon Humphrey, who hasn't even been playing most of this year. He's dealt with injuries himself, but rock solid defense for the Ravens. And yeah, offensive line's playing great. Lamar's been healthy all year. He's slinging the ball. That run game, they're a force at the goal line. So Ravens look like a Super Bowl contender right now, and super well coached. Hard not to like them. And then two teams from Texas will get A-pluses from me. We'll start with the Houston Texans, who were projected to be maybe the worst team in the NFL, definitely the worst team in the AFC. And they have well exceeded expectations, all thanks to Mr. C.J. Stroud, who is not only playing like the Rookie of the Year, which is he's guaranteed basically be the Rookie of the Year right now. He's playing like an MVP candidate. His ball placement and his leadership, and he's led a couple of crazy comebacks too. And the fact that he loves Houston and he stands up for the Texans franchise, he's proud to be a Texan. Yeah. The Texans have to be so happy with how this year has gone. Even if they don't make the playoffs this year, it's an A-plus season because the future is extremely bright. And then my other A-plus is going to go to the Dallas Cowboys, who I also don't want to give them an A-plus because who wants to give the Cowboys credit? But if this was college football, because, we're going to be deciding the playoff teams pretty soon, the Cowboys would be the number one team based on style points because, yeah, they got blown out by the 49ers. They did lose to the Eagles, but every other team, every mediocre team they've played, they've blown them out. They've looked like a force on defense. They get touchdowns. Micah Parsons is still a beast. Dak Prescott, with his offensive line healthy and playing well, he's looking like an MVP candidate as well. He's on top of his game this year, and he deserves credit for it. So Cowboys get an A+ for me.
Okay.
All right. Now moving on to my A's. I have 4 A's to give out. So I'll start with a team that you already talked about, which is the Philadelphia Eagles. I give them an A, not an A+, because their defense has not played well this year. They really haven't. It's been their offense, their line, their unstoppable play at the goal line, their coaching, their leadership by Jalen Hurts. It's the secondary is a concern, and it will be a concern come playoff time. And I really don't think the Eagles have played like a 9-1 team, but you do have to give them credit for managing to pull out these games one after the other. So absolutely an A for them. And then 3 other teams that get A's from me. The Detroit Lions would have gotten an A+, but their defense has been falling off a bit as of late. But in terms of expectations, they were expected to be a lot better this year. They were expected to be an NFC contender. But considering their history, they should get a lot of credit for actually following through, being good. 49ers get an A from me. They look outstanding again. They had a losing streak in the middle of the season, but you could blame that mostly on injuries to key players like Trent Williams and Debo. But they look like a force in NFC again. Super excited for this weekend's game against the Eagles, which we'll talk about later. And then the Cleveland Browns, who have had quarterback struggles the entire year. And the only reason they don't get an A+ is because they got nothing out of their $200+ million quarterback. But that defense is fantastic. And the Browns are in amazing playoff position. So I like the Browns as my 4th A. So who do you give A's out to?
My A's, I only gave out 2 A's, 2 flat A's right here. Right, I'm going to have to give A's to my Chiefs. I mean, they haven't looked so dominant like they have been in like recent years. They're dropping a lot of passes with their wide receivers, but this pass game, to see them go down 14-0 and then come back and just absolutely stomp the Raiders in the second half, I think this is the momentum shift right here. And I'm keeping them at an A because once they get hot and they start figuring their shit out, there's nobody that can stop them as long as Pat Mahomes has the ball in their hand. And yes, they lost to the Eagles at home, but Valdez-Scantling dropped a wide open pass. That would have been a touchdown. Then maybe the game would have been over then. Another loss that they had against I forgot the other loss, but it wasn't against a good team. And and they're just going to stay A, and they're going to keep climbing. My other A is the 49ers, like you said. So I think Brock Purdy is absolutely handling adversity like the way he should be. I mean, he got so much backlash after that hot start and the bad start in the middle of the season, and now you see them just tearing up defenses and putting up points on the board right now. Their defense is coming together in the secondary. I think they have an easy way to the playoffs with the remaining schedule. They got to beat the Eagles this weekend. That'll be a test for them. If they can go out and dominate the Eagles, I mean, man, they might be a Super Bowl team as well. So those are my two A's.
All right. And to close out our A's, who you got for A minuses?
A minuses. So I have 4 teams at A minuses. I got the Lions. I like what you said, like preseason, and they're just a little they've lost a couple, but they're going to make it into the playoffs. I think they have an easy way out of the schedule going into the playoffs. They should be hot. Jags, even that one slip up against the 49ers, even though they got pummeled, I still think they're a good football team, and they have all the weapons on offense. Trevor Lawrence is balling out like he should. They just beat the division rivals, Texans. Even though that was kind of rocky at the end, they still got the job done against I'd say probably the second best quarterback in the league, CJ Stroud. Another A minus, Miami. Even though they haven't beaten good teams, I feel like the teams that they do beat, they do blow them out. So just like the Cowboys. So once they get their next test, we'll see if they stay at an A minus. But right now, I think they're rocking at an A minus. And then last one, I got the Cowboys. I'll say the same thing that you said. I mean, they're blowing out these teams, but they haven't beaten any good teams. So that's just the alarm right there. But they're still an A minus. They're still a really good team. They put points up on the board. And you have to account for them as being a playoff contender for the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll throw in 2 A minuses myself, and they're going to be 2 teams that you already mentioned. That's going to be the Dolphins and the Jaguars. Dolphins haven't beat anyone yet, but you got to give Tua credit for staying healthy all season.
That too.
His judo lessons definitely paid off, and that offense looks electric. But there's questions. It remains to be seen. And the Jaguars themselves have taken advantage of good spots in their schedule. Not necessarily an easy schedule, but Trevor Lawrence has looked like a great leader this year. But the metrics don't say this is an elite team. However, they are well positioned because they beat the Texans now. They're in a comfortable place in the AFC South. So hard not to say that this season has been a success for the Jaguars. But there's going to be some playoff expectations this time around.
Definitely.
All right. Let's head over to our B pluses. Who you guys B pluses?
B plus. I got the Steelers. They're not really. I was gonna put them at a B minus, but I think B plus because they have so much potential on their team. Like now that they got this new offense going, and yes, there's locker room problems, but they're gonna fix that. They're gonna get guys the ball in space. They're running the ball way more effectively with T.J. Warren and Najee Harris. And fantasy owners have to be happy there. And then their defense is getting healthier too. So they're definitely going to be a force in the playoffs. That division is going to be tough because the next B plus I got is the Browns. No quarterback is hurting them, but has it really been hurting them this whole season? So I'd love to see how they end their season. Hot take, I don't think the Browns are going to make the playoffs because of quarterback play. They have a good record to make it, but I could see them slipping out and losing their last 5. But I am keeping them at a B plus right now because they do have the best defense in the NFL. So those are my 2 B pluses.
Mm-hmm. I got 2 B pluses myself, and they're 2 different teams. One team being the Indianapolis Colts, who I think have exceeded expectations, like their fellow division team, the Texans. Now, it hasn't been very pretty, but they drafted Anthony Richardson to be the starter, and he got hurt. But they had Minshew as like a reserve quarterback, and Minshew has done a fine job stepping in. You really got to give credit, though, to Coach Shane Steichen, who has gotten this offense to be very, very functional. despite, its struggles to block last year and not having their best running back for the top half of the season. Shout out Zach Moss. With Taylor hurt now, Moss is
Yeah,
going to be back into his starting role, and he's looked great all year. So
exactly.
Colts have exceeded expectations, and the Broncos didn't necessarily exceed expectations, but I have to give them a B plus for the way that they've turned their season around. It was looking like an F minus minus minus
Yeah,
very early in the year, but Sean Payton never lost his composure, and he's gotten a lot out of this defense. And really, this whole season, Russell Wilson has looked fantastic. It's just the defense couldn't stop anybody, but now the defense is putting it together. And look at this 5-game winning streak, the longest in the AFC. Who could have seen that coming? The Broncos looking a little scary right now. I'm gonna give them a B plus.
I like that. I like that.
So let's go to my mid teams. We're gonna go for the B's. So I'll start with 2 teams that you've already mentioned. I'm gonna put the Chiefs as a B, and it has nothing to do with how good I think this team is, because the Chiefs are still a Super Bowl contender, maybe the Super Bowl contender in the NFL. But the way that this receiving core has performed is a major concern come playoff time, because they have nobody that can catch the ball. I mean, their best guy is Rashee Rice, a 3rd-round rookie who's been impressive this year.
Oh,
And of course, Kelsey is doing his thing as well. But defense is Kelsey is still getting older, and defenses they know to key in on him, especially if these receivers are going to drop passes like they have been. But the defense has been holding things down for the Chiefs, and I think the Chiefs haven't been performing like their dominant ways. As you mentioned, they've been performing really bad in the second half as of late.
yeah.
They got that fixed in the Raiders game. Let's see if they keep that up. And then you also mentioned the Steelers. I give them a B because it took them way too long to fire Matt Canada, but they did it, and now they're already seeing results because of it. So the Steelers are a team to watch in the second half. They already have a pretty good record, but if their offense can put it together and then they get some of their hurt defensive stars back, like Fitzpatrick, then they could be a team to watch.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you got two other Bs, one of them being the Minnesota Vikings, who had to deal with a lot of variance early in the season, and they look really good when Kirk Cousins got hurt, and then he gets hurt, and then Dobbs comes in and he looks pretty serviceable. He struggled in a couple of games, but I think that's to be expected. I think every quarterback kind of goes through that, but I think overall this Vikings team has, with not the greatest roster, has performed to just about expectations. They're still in the playoff spot, and I got to give some credit to the Los Angeles Rams. I'm going to give them a B as well, because this roster, aside from Stafford and Kupp and Donald, it's just tons of young talent that Sean McVay has managed to coach up and stay competitive in most games. And now Matthew Stafford looks pretty healthy. This is a team that could end up supplanting the Vikings for that final playoff spot. It really wouldn't surprise me at all.
Hey, I mean, I hope they make it instead of the Seahawks.
Yeah, I think they'd be a more entertaining team.
Definitely. Now, my Bs, I got 4 Bs.
Mm-hmm.
So even though I was just kind of talking shit about the Seahawks, I do have them at a B. I like the way their secondary plays. Geno Smith definitely has to pick up his game, but they're definitely in a good position to make a run. They still have the playmakers on the outside. They got to get Smith and Jigba more involved in the offense. So we'll see what that happens, how that goes out. Another B, I got the Colts. Richardson goes down, and then it's Minshew mania. You couldn't ask for a better season when there's Minshew mania. The guy is absolutely electric. He keeps the team always in the game, and huge win last week. And then also now that you said Taylor's out, so Zach Moss is going to have to carry the weight. So I think Zach Moss is going to definitely take over. Another B, I'm actually going to put the Texans at B. CJ Stroud's the man, but I still think because they're in a weak division that they kind of I got to see them play better competition. They played well against the Jaguars last week, But we definitely have to see this last final stretch of games. And now I think, hot take, I think if they make the playoffs, D'Amico Ryans is definitely coach of the year for sure.
I think that's a pretty good pick right there.
And then my final B, ever since the 70-20 loss against the Dolphins, the Broncos have they've been electric, and they're finding ways to win games. They had that great win against the Bills. They won last week against the best defense in the league, and the only thing that they could improve on is, I would say, maybe more explosive plays on offense. But when Russell takes care of the ball and when you get him outside of the pocket and he makes plays, the Broncos can be a dangerous team in the playoffs that can beat you through time possession and also just defensive third downs and what have you. And then, those are my 4 Bs. Now on to B-.
All right. So for my B-, I have 2 teams. Number 1 being the Cardinals, and the Cardinals have one of the worst records in the NFL this year, but we all knew that they were pretty much tanking this season. So I guess what Cardinals fans are looking for is like a sign of hope and competitiveness, and they've certainly gotten that this year. Early in the season, the Cardinals were competing with a lot of these teams that they shouldn't be beating. They even beat the Cowboys, which was a crazy victory. I think that bringing Kyler back early, while I know he wanted to play, I think it was a mistake. I think they should have held out and kept him out for the rest of the season to protect his health, have him full go for next year. But I'm impressed with how the Cardinals have been playing with effort-wise and on defense. It might be getting late towards the season. They might start to be falling off a little bit, but I think as a Cardinals fan, you got to be happy with at least how they played. And I'm also going to give a B- to the Seahawks, who have looked much improved on defense this year. But yeah, on the offensive side, Geno Smith looked like he's regressed a little bit. And it could be pointed to offensive line play, but it seemed like he was making many more plays last year. He still got them in a playoff position, but like you said, it's just not an exciting team right now.
I feel that. Hopefully they get more exciting.
Hopefully.
B-. All right, yes. I got 5 B-. So, it looks like 1, 2, 5 B-. So first one, we already touched upon this. Vikings, Dobbs, he picking him up, and then he's been balling out. And then this past game, he kind of took like 3 steps back. But their defense is balling to a level where they could definitely make it into the playoffs if they make a run. Another B-. I got the Falcons. Actually, they also are a team that just finds a way to win. They're really opening up with Bijan Robinson. They're giving the ball like 100 times more. So, hopefully, Desmond Ridder, I don't think he's the guy for the Falcons. But if that team keeps finding ways to win and their defense is also balling out, getting turnovers, I think they can definitely be a dangerous team. Another B-, I think a team that's hot right now, Green Bay Packers. I think Jordan Love is absolutely balling out of his mind these past like 4 or 5 weeks, and he's definitely figuring it out, the offense, and he's getting more comfortable with his guys. All of his guys are back. Christian Watson is absolutely balling out. He kind of looks like Rodgers when he throws, so that's definitely another positive. And then that defense, Rashawn Gary is just absolutely getting after the quarterback, and they're making plays on defense where they can keep teams within like 20 points and they can win games. And they just beat the Lions on Thanksgiving. So that's a huge win. I think they're without Aaron Jones, but that shouldn't be a problem. Another B- team, I got the Rams. Like, I was going to put them at B, but because their division's so tough, I'm putting them at a B-. Stafford doing what he usually does. And shout out Kyron Williams from Notre Dame. He posted like one of the slowest 40s. I don't know if you look it up. I'm pretty sure he ran like a 4.7 at the combine. But he had 200 all-purpose yards this past Sunday, and they're just giving the ball in space, and everything's working for Sean McVay's play calling. and that team could also be dangerous. And the reason why there's a lot of B's and B minuses, I feel like this year, I don't know about you, Shoot, but I feel like it's just like it's going to be a toss up. I feel like it's definitely going to be one of the most competitive playoffs we are about to see.
Definitely, even with the top teams, but especially with the competing playoff teams, you look at the playoff standings right now, things are far from decided.
Yeah,
And there's very few like very crappy teams.
I love
So,
it.
going into our C's, so I'm going to quickly run down first the C plus and C's. So at C plus, I have the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers had a very good start to the season, and Baker is playing like a competitive quarterback, but there's clearly limitations to this team, and their defense doesn't have a lot of depth. They've had a lot of injuries and haven't been able to replace those veteran players, and that's kind of held them back. But they've fought, and they're not totally out of the picture yet in the weak NFC South. And they didn't have high expectations. I think C plus is about appropriate for them. At C, I have three teams. I'm going to start with the Packers, and I think the Packers were trending towards like a D or an F before their recent run, because they had invested all these assets years ago into Jordan Love, instead of helping out Rodgers. So this is kind of those things where it's like it's not like you hope he works out, like he better work out, but he's starting to turn a corner a little bit, and that defense has played well at times. It's just like that offense has been stagnant at certain points this year, and they've had to play it from behind a lot, so they haven't been playing the best football. But LaFleur deserves some credit for keeping that team upright.
Oh yeah.
Two other teams that deserve C's, one of them being the Tennessee Titans, who have not looked great this year, but they had a very depleted roster. Their offensive line was bad to begin with, but they may have found something with Will Levis. Obviously he's not elite yet, but he's put together a couple of good performances, especially his debut was really good. So they at least have a chance for momentum next year. And Derrick Henry still looks like a beast, but it's just not a very good team. No. And then the Raiders they're just stuck in purgatory right now because Jimmy G, he's not playing anymore. He's injured yet again. Aiden O'Connell, which I keep thinking it's Derek Carr every time I see him because he wears number 4. But yeah, so they've played well. They're just this team's not really going anywhere, and I guess they've won some games. They've beaten worse teams, but there's nothing really all that impressive about this team. So I think C is well deserved.
I agree with most of those because I also have the Raiders at C. New head coach, shout out Antonio Pierce, Giants Super Bowl champion. I'm glad he's turned that around, but they just don't look like a good team overall. I feel bad for Max Crosby, guys balling out, but they just don't look like they're going to make any type of push for the playoffs. Another team at C, I also have the Bucks. Just like you said, like a lot of injuries, and their defense is just not making the plays in the secondary that they need to. And they don't really the Bucks don't really get a run game going, so they can't really run play action as well as they want to get to Mike Evans or even Chris Godwin, who's kind of been just invisible these past couple of weeks. Also C plus, I forgot to mention. So my two C pluses, Saints. I mean, I had the Saints to win the NFC South, but now the Atlanta Falcons are in first place. So I don't know what's up with them. Carr doesn't look like himself, maybe because it's a new team, but he's got the weapons. He's not putting it together. C plus, another one I have is Burrow. I mean, the Bengals, which is Burrow Central, but without Burrow. I was going to put them at C minus, but their backup quarterback Browning, he actually looks pretty decent. So he can get the guys the ball in space, what have you. He's playing against the Steelers defense, and we all know he can get after the ball. So there's a lot of pressure. And then my last C is the Chargers, and they need to fire Staley. He's got to go. That defense is the worst in the league, and I feel bad for Herbert because he can be one of the best top 5, top 4 quarterbacks in the league, but they're just not putting it together. And then Eckler, they're paying him all this money, and he's not even producing 100 all-purpose yards per game. So feel bad for him.
My C minus is I have 4 teams at C minuses. So first team I'm going to go with is the Bengals. You talked about them. The Bengals can't do anything now if Joe Burrow hurt, but they could have done something early in the year when he was hurt. They could have rested him, perhaps put their backup in, and gone into the season with expectations like we got to play well until Burrow comes back. But they put Burrow in, and they got off to a sluggish start. They caught fire, but now he's hurt again, and it's too late. So Bengals, they need to be knocked down a little bit for that poor start to the season. The Atlanta Falcons have had some coaching blunders, mostly them not using their top 10 picks. The 3 top 10 picks that they have sometimes barely seen the field this year. It absolutely boggles my mind. But they're in first place, so I'll give them credit. I won't make them the worst team in the division, but definitely they should be better than they are with all the free agency money they spent. The Buffalo Bills. I really think that the Buffalo Bills could be deserving of an F, but they can't control their 2 best defensive players being lost for the season, especially Matt Milano. That's such a huge loss to that team. He's the heart and soul of that defense, and defense definitely hasn't looked the same since they've gone. But the Bills have also underwhelmed them mightily against inferior competition. That Giants game a few weeks back, they could barely score on offense.
Yeah.
The Broncos, I know the Broncos are coming up right now, but the Bills barely look functional on offense, and they should have won that game against the Eagles, but a miscommunication between Allen and Gabe Davis sums up their season. They're going to have to go on quite the run to make the playoffs now. And my last C- is going to go to the Chicago Bears, who had a little bit of expectations this year because of the free agency money they spent, but they haven't lived up to it on defense at all. I mean, they looked really embarrassing, especially Fields at the start of the season. Fields has improved since then, but Fields does not look like the quarterback of the future right now. But not all hope is lost because the Bears are in shape to have 2 top 5 picks. So lucky for them.
Yeah, we'll see how those top 5 picks goes, because I totally agree. Bears C-. I was going to put them at C because of those 2 top picks, but like as a fan, how do you want like another season where it's like, oh yay, more first round picks like in the early rounds? Another C-. I'm actually going to go with the Titans. I had high expectations for them to at least be like in second place of their division, but they're just not it whatsoever. Will Levis looks good in his first start, but ever since then they just don't have any weapons. They traded Kevin Byard to the Eagles, so I don't know what's going on with that organization over there. I thought they were going to trade Derrick Henry, but Derrick Henry's sticking around. He still looks like a beast. Also, another C-. I'm going to go with the Jets. Zach Wilson was never the guy, but because of their defense, keeping them in games, especially that one game against the Chiefs where they had a chance to win it in the end, I feel bad for the Jets. Like, I was going to put them at D, but I mean, we'll see what happens next year. Aaron Rodgers definitely screwed them over by giving away a first-round pick. Now it's going to be the Rodgers show from now until like next summer, and then the season starts. Hopefully he doesn't get hurt again. Another C-. I'm going to go with the Giants because they are putting up a fight with some of these semi-elite teams. Like they put up a fight against the Bills. Even I know like the Patriots aren't what they used to be, but they held the Patriots to 7 points, which is amazing. That defense, Thibodeau, my boy 5, he's coming through. He's making plays. The guy's an absolute beast. And the only thing that's keeping it a C- is their offense, and it's completely embarrassing. And I think I might be the only guy in New Jersey who wants Caleb Williams as their first-round pick. And those are my C-.
A little late for that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. I'll be back in 1 minute.
All right. Breakdown. What's up, viewers? I need a haircut. Put in the comments what type of haircut I should get.
Hell yeah. Shout out. Thank you, Kyle Corbliss, for saying good stuff, boys. Appreciate you leaving a comment. Definitely leave a comment on whatever thoughts that you guys have. We love all the attention we can get. So let's give some attention to teams that don't deserve it. We're gonna go to our D's and our F's.
Yes.
Beginning with the D's. So I'll talk about three teams that deserve D's. We'll start with the two New York teams. The Giants absolutely deserve a D because they have regressed absolutely mightily. And it started the very first snap of the season. Well, not first snap, the first drive of the season.
Yeah.
Ever since the Cowboys blocked that field goal return for a touchdown, it seems like we never got that hope back. We got a glimpse of it when Daniel Jones led that comeback versus the Cardinals, but we never should have been down that many points to them in the first place. Now he's hurt. The season was lost before then. And it's nice to see DeVito play well. And it's a good story. It's fun to follow. But this team does not look good whatsoever. And now there's reports of a spat between the head coach and the defensive coordinator. So it's just like the Giants had a glimmer of hope, and now they're regressing back to their old ways in the 2010s. So hope for a turnaround there for next season. The New York Jets had the unfortunate injury to Aaron Rodgers, but they still deserve a D for the season because of how they've handled it post Aaron Rodgers. You have a pretty good roster that, there are plenty of options out there to help with your quarterback situation, but yet they were so stubborn with Zach Wilson, whether it was the ownership telling Saleh to keep him in there or Saleh himself being stubborn. Whatever it was, they kept him in there for way too long, and they're paying the price now because of it. Now they're putting Tim Boyle out there, and maybe they're just trying to prove that, oh, look, no quarterback can succeed in this situation. But at the end of the day, it's just the Jets looking like a laughing stock once again. And then this next team that gets a D from me is the New Orleans Saints, who had a chance to take a division lead, and they failed to do so. Derek Carr, man, he has underwhelmed mightily in his first season. He's had some injuries and stuff, but his leadership has come under question. He's over there just yelling at his receivers. It doesn't seem like they play hard for him. And then he's also throwing passes that are getting his receivers hurt. Olave's got another concussion because of a hospital pass. And, Shaheed and Michael Thomas are out now too.
Yeah.
And the Saints are a team that, spent all this money, but what they really should have done was rebuild. They shouldn't have gone for a big splash. They're paying the price for it right now.
They definitely are. All right. My D's and F. I have 3 D's, 1 F. D plus is going to go to Washington. They're just absolutely horrendous on defense. I think they've let up the most touchdowns in the NFL. I don't know what the hell happened there. Ron Rivera is definitely on his way out.
100%.
He's probably going to go after this week. Sam Howell, even though he is throwing a shit ton of passing yards and passing touchdowns, dude cannot protect the football. They traded away Chase Young and Montez Sweat. I feel bad for Eric Bieniemy. He is running an efficient offense and he's moving the ball down the field, but it's just sucks losing, and I do feel bad for that guy. Another D, the Patriots. They just look awful. Bill Belichick, I think he's going to be done after this year. They're going to hire Gerard Mayo to be the head coach. Mac Jones is none of the players like him. He seems like in the locker room. But they brought Bill O'Brien in, and they're still not efficient on offense. And then they try to bring in Bailey Zappi in the Giant game, and he absolutely shits the bed too. So it has a lot to do with coaching. They don't have the weapons around him. They signed as an old Zeke Elliott. You can barely get around the tackles. It just looks bad overall. Just a D. Cardinals at a D minus. Even though expectations were really high, I feel like I am doing a disservice putting them at a D minus. I feel like we also thought like definitely they're going to be one of the last teams in the league this year coming in, but they're staying at a D minus because Kyler Murray's back, and against the last week against a Rams team that does let up like an efficient amount of pass yards, and they still couldn't manage to keep the game close. That also has to do with coaching too. And I know it's his first year, but they definitely have to get it together. And then my F is going to go to the Panthers. Fired Reich. That's his like fifth job in like 5 years, and it's just a disaster. They traded away DJ Moore for an early first round pick and what's his name, and Bryce Young, and CJ Stroud is just balling out over him. And they also send away Tank Dell, and Tank Dell is balling out on the Texans. So I don't know what that organization is doing, but they need to figure it out quick because they have a defense that can get after the quarterback and that can play good in the secondary with Brian Burns and even though he's hurt, CJ Horn. So like that team has potential in the future, but it's just it's a fucking shit brick house right now. People are just shits in it, and it sucks.
Shit brick house, baby.
Literally.
We love it. Yeah. I've reserved my 4 Fs for teams that are just have no positives to take away from this season. We'll start with the Commanders, who were on a fire sale halfway through the season, so they obviously didn't expect to make the playoffs. And they've had some nice wins, but none of them within division. 0-5 in the division. They get swept by the Giants again, and like this, of all the years, get swept by the Giants. You don't want it to be when Tommy DeVito is your quarterback, and the Giants have no other hope otherwise. Yeah. Yes, sir. But the Commanders have, when the season starting, Sam Howell, hoping that he would get a chance or he would give them some stability at the quarterback position. And they're now stuck again in quarterback purgatory because they're not going to land a top 2 pick. So Commanders, they're just going to be stuck at the bottom of the division for who knows how long. I'm going to give an F to the Los Angeles Chargers for wasting Justin Herbert's rookie. Well, he's not on a rookie contract anymore, but still he's surrounded with great free agency talent. And the Chargers made a dumb decision to not let go of Brandon Staley when they should have. They decided to keep him for another year, and they're going to keep on keeping him. You can see it on Justin Herbert's expression. He is so frustrated with this team, and like he's tired of losing. And it's just a disaster because they're going to lose him. Like he's not going to stick around if this is how the organization treats their star quarterback. Like, and I wouldn't blame him. It's a disgrace.
Yeah.
And I got 2 F minuses for the 2 worst teams in the league. First, the Carolina Panthers fired their coach already. Ownership is a disaster. That DJ Moore trade is looking worse and worse. It already was bad at the beginning, but it's so bad. How is it that Bryce Young was number 1 overall pick, but looks like maybe the 4th or 5th rookie quarterback in this league? Hell, even at times DeVito has looked better than Bryce Young. That is bad.
Yeah.
And of course, the offensive line has done no favors. But yeah, the Panthers signed a bunch of old free agents on offense to try to complement him. And Thielen's been nice, but Sanders has done nothing. Where is Hayden Hurst? I have no idea. It's disaster in Carolina. But I think the biggest disaster is in New England because they have Bill Belichick still at the helm, and he is clearly past it. What is he doing at quarterback? Why is he trotting out Mac Jones being like, okay, buddy, now remember, don't throw any picks or you're getting benched? Like, why not just bench him in the first place?
Yeah.
Why Zappy? Why not put out like Malik Cunningham, who can at least provide like a spark?
Yeah.
It's just like atrocious. And the Patriots culture has been called into question in the past, but they were winning. But now it's like, I hope they're not keeping the strict culture with this BS. Like, I would hate and 2 weeks ago when they bench Mac Jones on the last drive of the game. It's just stupid. It's just like putting your kid in detention. He's not. Belichick's got to go, but they're not going to let him go. Why would they let him go? They won him 6 Super Bowls. Belichick has the keys to that franchise for as long as he wants, unless they force him out. So I don't know, but I think they're a biggest disaster this year.
Yeah, that might be. You might be right with the F there. I might downgrade them to F minus.
Right, very much worthy of that. All right, let's move on and let's get into some picks. So let's start with college football, and you got some picks for the big bowl games, not bowl games, but the big conference championship games.
Oh yeah, championship weekend. Let's get into it. So first game, Friday, Conference USA. We got New Mexico State University versus Liberty. Liberty has 1 loss. They're 11-1. New Mexico State is 10-2. Quarterback for New Mexico State, he's actually like one of the most electric players in college football, Diego Pavia. I'm going to take the points here at New Mexico State plus 10.5. So, yeah, New Mexico State University plus 10.5 versus Liberty. Next game, Pac-12 Championship Friday. Friday night, Oregon versus Washington. Oregon coming out as minus 9.5 point favorites against Washington. Washington won the last matchup, but Oregon, in that game, was winning the entire time. They had a chance to seal it, and they went for it on their own fucking 45-yard line, and they turned it over. And then Washington stole the game. I don't think that's going to happen. Oregon's been super, dominating these past 3 weeks. I think they're coming into this game as a revenge game. Give me Oregon minus 9.5 against Washington. Then we move on to Saturday. We got some action, MAC championship. Miami of Ohio versus Toledo. Toledo, I think, is also 11-1. Miami of Ohio, I'm just going to – action is weird. I don't know too much about these teams. I've seen them play a couple of times on Tuesdays, Wednesdays nights. But these games are always close. So I'm going to take the points with Miami, Ohio, plus 8.5. Now we go to the Mountain West Championship. Boise State versus UNLV. Boise State minus 2.5. I'm taking Boise State minus 2.5. Look out for their running back. His name's Genty, I think is number 4. Dude's a little short guy, and he's like a bowling ball, and he's super fast. Nobody can tackle him. Watch out for this dude. He's going to run all over UNLV. Now we got Big 12 Championship also on Saturday. Oklahoma State versus Texas. Oklahoma State is plus 14.5, but I'm going to take one more point. I'm going to go with plus 15.5 for a little bit more juice against Texas. Texas in these games, I don't remember last time they won a Big 12 championship, but I'm just going with history right here, and I'm thinking Texas can handle the big moment. And I think Oklahoma State keeps us way more closer than you think. And SEC championship, Bama versus Georgia. I'm definitely going to take Bama here, plus 6.5. Georgia, yeah, they're the best team in the country. Yeah, they might win it again for the 3rd time. But I just think Bama, Bama also came off of a 1-score win against Auburn, and Auburn's not the best team, but I think they looked past Auburn. And they're more focused on Georgia. And I love Jalen Milroe. I think he's the fastest player on the field. And look for him to just make a bunch of fucking plays with his legs and keep extending it. And they lose maybe by 4 or 5, and you cover. Now we got Big 10 Championship. Iowa versus Michigan. Iowa's plus 23.5 underdog. I see 23.5 points, and I see Iowa, and then their slow play. And they love to run the ball. They're not very good at passing it. Michigan's defense is phenomenal, coming off of a huge win against Ohio State. I'm going to go with Iowa and take the points. 23.5 points is a lot of points, especially in a championship game. I've seen Michigan blow out teams before, but I think Iowa can come in with a little bit more juice and just play tighter defense and keep it a low-scoring game. And then we got the ACC championship that night on Saturday night. Florida State minus 2.5 versus Louisville. Louisville coming off of a 7-point loss against Kentucky. Kentucky SEC team, not very good SEC team. Louisville got ran all over by Ray Davis. I can't pick Louisville here. I just can't after that performance. Even letting up 38 points. So I'm going to go with Florida State minus 2.5, even though Travis broke his leg. I like the next guy up. So give me Florida State minus 2.5. And then I have a parlay. It's 2 championship games that I did not cover. It's the Sun Belt Championship and the American, I think, AAC conference. It's a parlay. So Southern Methodist University and Tulane over 47.5 points with Troy money line in the AAC game. It's plus 167. Nice little parlay. Go home, write about it. And that's all I got.
I'm glad you have so much insight because I have no insight besides go Iowa. I'm heartbroken.
Yeah, let's go. I'm taking Iowa. Come on now.
Let's go. Let's get a 3-0 game.
Yeah, why not? Why not? And
Right.
Iowa 3.
Yes. Let's go with something a little more in my wheelhouse for this week. That'll be our NFL picks. We got 3 games on tap for this slate, and we obviously have the game of the week, but we're going to start with a different game, and that game. 1 second. So we're gonna go with Indy versus Tennessee, division battle at Tennessee this time. Taylor is out. Minshew has been up and down. Derrick Henry is coming back with December here. So does Tennessee pull off the upset, or do the Colts continue their playoff march?
So I was looking at this game. Both defenses are matched up very good. Last time they played, the Colts won by 7, and I'm pretty sure Tannehill had like a couple fumbles and then he threw a pick. No touchdown passes. Zach Moss went off in that game. He ran for a lot of yards. It's definitely going to be like a 24-21 type ending, but I'm going to go with the home team here. I'm going to take the Titans. I think Derrick Henry's looking for a revenge game. I'm calling Derrick Henry masterclass game. He's going to run for 100 yards. They're going to pound the football, take control of the clock, make Will Levis just make easy throws, and then maybe air it out a couple times to Hopkins, who in last game he had like 8 catches for 140 yards. So I'm going to go with the Titans.
I like the Titans too because, like I said, it's Derrick Henry season. It's time to feed him the ball. It's time to get him going on the ground. This is the exact time of the year that they wanted him to do it. The Colts look a little bit shaky, and I think they're due for some regression.
Yeah.
I think they've battled some teams and they've got lucky on the turnover battle.
Oh.
I don't think it keeps up. And look for Will Levis to, reignite that fire that he had a few weeks ago and have his best performance yet.
Oh, yeah. I like that.
So, we're looking forward to the game of the week, but sneaky game of the week here. Mm-hmm. 2 of the hottest teams in the NFL. We have the Denver Broncos on a 5-game winning streak and the Houston Texans who have vaulted themselves into a playoff position. But this is a huge matchup when it comes to AFC playoff seeding. So all on the line for this game. Who do you got?
So I was looking at this game, and I really do like this game. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to end in a field goal regardless. Both offenses can be electric. Russell Wilson can extend the plays and throw touchdown passes when needed. And then CJ Stroud is just electric with the deep ball. And you got Tank Dell and Nico Collins. It's the defenses that I'm looking at here. And the one team that has the edge is the Broncos. And they're top 10 in red zone defense and in third down efficiency on defense. So I think a lot of this game is going to have to come down to getting stops and and keeping teams to field goals, because the Texans can then load it deep and score touchdowns. And I think the Broncos can also do that, but I think they want to go more of a ground and pound and control the clock and kind of like win how they beat the Chiefs and keep the other team from scoring touchdowns. So I'm definitely going to go with the Broncos on the road. I'm going to ride with the hot team, and hopefully they extend their winning streak and it makes the playoffs a little bit more interesting.
It's hard not to like the Broncos because they're super hot, but I think every team is due for on a winning streak like this. Every team is due for a loss, and CJ Stroud, I think he's got that dog in him. I think this is the kind of guy that will bounce back quick from a loss. And although this defense has played better, the Texans defense themselves has been playing pretty well. And if you watch that game against the Jaguars, there were just so many penalties called against the Texans. It was almost unfair. Oh, and otherwise really good performance. It's a toss-up for me, but to be different because I don't want to be calling another Christmas Day bowl game. Well, let's go with the Texans.
You got it. I feel you.
All right, game of the week. We've been waiting for this one for so long, and fans of San Francisco especially have been waiting for this one. Their rematch with the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles claim that they would have beat them regardless. The 49ers claim that a healthy Purdy, they would have won. It all gets settled this weekend. So who do you think sells it in this highly anticipated rematch?
Even though I can't stand the Eagles, I was looking at this game. I did kind of want to pick Philly because they were the home team. But I think the 49ers are going to come out swinging. I think there is bad blood in the water right now. And I think they definitely want to prove a point. And I think they're going to try and dominate the line of scrimmage early. Fletcher Cox has an injury. I haven't checked it. I don't know if he's out or not this week, but that's a huge factor in the Eagles' D-line. Yes, they can just replace him with Jalen Carter, but man, big old Trent Williams, I don't think he's going to have it this game. I think there's going to be some scrappiness. There's going to be some fighting. It's going to be a street fight. It's going to be an old-fashioned street fight. And I'm going to go with the 49ers, and I think they win by 8, like a dominating 8. And the Eagles, if they started out like they did in the last game against the Bills, I don't think the Eagles can come back whatsoever. So I think the 49ers can pull away, get stops on defense early, and then Purdy can take care of the football, and they can just run it with McCaffrey and then use play action and abuse that Eagles secondary that's been so inconsistent. Give me the 49ers.
I think that's a good pick. And check this out. Have you ever seen a defending NFC champion, 9-1 team, be a 3-point home underdog to any team?
No.
I think that is how impressive the 49ers have been lately. They've been business and heading after it. And like I mentioned before, this Eagles defense has not been playing well. What do the 49ers do very well? Well, offense in general, but their pass attack has been pretty lethal this year. And look for Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle to exploit holes. Look for Debo to make plays around the edge. You can't forget McCaffrey out of the backfield, still making plays. I just think the Eagles have had a lot of very positive variance in their favor, and they just won an emotional game. I think the 49ers have the edge here. The Eagles might be thinking more, well, they can have it. We'll get them in the playoffs. I don't think the Eagles deserve to be home underdogs necessarily, but I am picking the 49ers in this game.
I like that.
All right. And real quick, one lock and one upset for NFL.
Okay. So I'm back. NFL locks and best bets. I'm 18-1. I actually have 5 quick picks right here. So Lions at Saints, taking the Lions -3.5. Falcons at the Jets, taking the Falcons -3. Dolphins at Washington. Dolphins are going to kill the Commanders. -9. Dolphins -9. Rams versus Browns, 4 p.m. Rams -3.5 versus Browns. I don't like the Browns quarterback. Yes, their defense is the best in the league, but the Rams looked so good against an inferior Cardinal team. They got to keep that going. And then last pick, the night game, Chiefs -6.5 at Packers.
Yes, sir. I have a lock of the week, and I'm going to make this right now my lock of the month. Lock this in. The Carolina Panthers +6 against the Buccaneers. It's +5.5 right now on most sports books, but I'll take that little bit of extra line to cover.
Yeah.
Because the Buccaneers are not good enough to be a 6-point favorite over anybody. And you're factoring in 2 bad offenses, so probably low scoring game, and a team that is going to be highly motivated after firing your head coach. Just always happens with teams after they fire their head coach, especially against a division rival. They're going to come out swinging. Now, it's not going to last forever, but the Panthers, I think they'll cover the spread. I don't think they necessarily win, but I'll take those extra points. I think the Panthers will be motivated to win this game. And then for my upset this week, the Cleveland Browns are 3.5-point road underdogs against the Los Angeles Rams. Stafford is looking healthy again, so the Rams are looking scary, but it's too good for me to pass up. The Browns defense is still is what it is, and obviously there's questions at quarterback, but do the Rams have enough to exploit that? I don't know necessarily. I think the Browns have been pulling out tough games all year, and I think they will continue to, and they pull off the upset.
They're due for a win, so I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, they need it. All right, well, this has been our maybe longest episode yet. Over an hour and 10 minutes of content. First live stream. What's not to love? Shout out to everyone that tuned in to view. If you're new to the channel and you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If you want to follow us on Spotify, we'll leave that link in the description. Check out my other videos on my channel. I've made a few videos about sports betting that you might be interested in. And follow my boy Chuck on Twitter. We'll link that in the description as well.
Yes, sir. All right. Let's have a great week.
Let's do it, Chuck. And congrats on a great episode. And let's get him next week.
Yes, sir. I'll be back.
Let's go. And this is Shoop.
I'm Chuck.
Signing out. Peace.
Adios, amigos. Hasta luego.